All right, everyone. So we are officially on part 6 of the My Lady book, which is all about your business skills. So I have a lot of students that often complain about this chapter. They'll say, oh, Mr. B, I don't want to go over this, or oh, why do I have to know business skills, and da-da-da-da-da, or I just want to open up my own salon. The latter being, every time I get a student saying they want to open up their salon upon graduating, I have 2 responses. 1, good luck. It is very difficult, not impossible. But 2, if you don't research and understand good business skills, you will not be successful. Business skills are the heart of everything that we do, and I always say that a good cosmetology education program will be a decent part of business skills, technical skills, and science, whereas your chemistry, color education, and all that. That's why the one program that I always tell students to go to, this is not me forcing you to go to this or saying that you must do this, is Coastline Education, because Coastline has a good combination of all of that, and you'll find that all the information is completely generic. They don't try to sell you on one brand or a specific program. They just give you straight up facts. They've done their own research on clients, on salons. You have Leo LaPierre, who does the business, Lisa Kelly, who is an educator. She's wrote many color manuals. She teaches you generic information on color chemistry, a little bit of the psychology of the clients and the business skills. And Franco Marino, who is one heck of a talented artist. He makes his own scissors, and he does hair cutting information that you can use if you use any shears or product brand. It's all about the technique and less about the brand. It's more about you being the artist and learning those skills to use any brand that you're using to make yourself successful. Because a lot of the times I'm realizing, and I tend to also see this a lot with the older generation and the younger generation for different reasons. I find that the older generation, as a general, tends to focus on a brand they've been using for a while, and then that brand will define them. And then the younger generation they don't really have that identity of who they are yet, or they don't have enough confidence in their skills, so they tend to gravitate towards, oh, this brand does everything for me, instead of you making that brand work for you. And that's just my quick little tangent on that. So Coastline, I'm going to try to link it down below so you can look at that. I don't know their policies regarding if you are a student, but it couldn't hurt to email them and ask. I think at some point, I always joke around, I tell the educators at Coastline, I think that we need to team up and design beauty schools or cosmetology schools so we can prep the students with good education. And then after they graduate, do like an advanced cosmetology thing, like a hair academy. I know Franco has one in New York, and Coastline has one in Boston, Massachusetts, where you can come in there and continue your education on the good skills that you learn. So anyhow, we are jumping on into chapter 30. Again, I hope you all have your resumes, because we're going to be talking about seeking employment in this field. That is this one right here. It's got, actually this one I thought had a pretty cool design. This chapter is a little bit short. There is not going to be so many questions on this section of your quiz and test. If you have your quiz booklet, keep that handy. I know that some schools give it out just for a study reference and others don't. So seeking employment is important to know for different reasons, obviously, because we are in cosmetology school to seek employment and find a job as a hairdresser. There's a lot of jobs out there in the field. You also want to take a look and do some soul searching on who you want to be like. But I also want to put a word of caution in there. A lot of people, like back in my day, we liked Vidal Sassoon. He was the artist, almost like the grandfather of hair. He made our business more professional. Vidal Sassoon was good for his time. However, you can be your own person. You don't have to be just like him. And that's a trap that I feel people try to fall into all too often. I won't name any names, but there's a few hairdressers out there who are quote unquote famous on YouTube or famous influencers. And what happens is that people get, they lose confidence, like, oh, I can never be that good in this and that. And my response is, why are you even trying to be like them? Don't even try to be like them. Be your own person. If you do some soul searching and you find out who you are and what you want to be like and what you like to do, and you maximize on that, you will become successful. So for example, I know a lot of salons now are departmentalized. I honestly believe that's the best way to be. I always would ask, do you want to do hair cutting or do you want to do hair coloring? And then you might even have a third in there. Do you want to do updos, hairstyling? Maximize on what you like to do best after you graduate cosmetology school, and then become the best you can be at that skill. I've seen the analogy before, which is interesting. Think about like if you have a general, physician or chiropractor that you go to, you're not going to have them, perform oral surgery. You're going to go to an oral surgeon who's also a medical professional but was trained in specifics. Think about cosmetology school as like becoming just a general, very, very general practitioner in everything. Franco, you'll hear him say this if you take his class. He always tells people when you graduate cosmetology school, congratulations, you just graduated kindergarten. I agree with him on that because a lot of the information that we learn in cosmetology school is way too general. It is not specific. You learn how to do the things the safe way, all the sanitation that we need to know, and then when we go out there in the real world, you're doing your own thing and you're doing creative techniques that are not taught in school. So also don't get discouraged that if you didn't go to like a $20,000 cosmetology school. When I was in cosmetology school, I think I paid $7,200 or around there, around $7,200, which is still a lot. It was on the cheaper end in Jersey. We still used a good brand. We still learned good techniques. My cosmetology teacher, shout out to you, Miss McRae, if you're watching, you were awesome. Really did a good job at making us feel like we were cared for. Also did a good job at teaching us a lot of the history in our industry that is often forgot. And it's interesting to see that, a lot of these trends are not really trends per se. They're just kind of like a revamp on what was done back in the past. So, the book also says that you want to find, almost like not a mentor, but look for people that are successful. But you'll also see that the people that were successful, they were not born successful. They were not born a hairdresser. These right here, our hands are our two most important tools that we can use. If you don't have your hands, can you only imagine you couldn't, do updos, you couldn't make that magical product that you claim that, does everything work for you. Your hands are your best working tools. So you already have everything that you need to have, everything that you need to know you have already, right attached to you. So you also want to know that a lot of people that are successful, I know there was a book out there called The Top 20% or something. And basically it was about the top 20% using good business skills and using skills that the rest of the 80 average percent don't use. There's a good class on Coastline that Leo LaPierre teaches, and he talks a lot about what the top 20% is. It's kind of just like the same thing about that. Your habits are important. You also want to make sure that you're doing time management well. I see a lot of students not doing that correctly. There's a lot of an emphasis on groupthink or, oh, my friends, are all going out, to the club. I'm going to go out to the club and I'm not going to study for my test. Don't do that. I've been guilty of that before. It doesn't do you any good. It's important to develop those skills early on. And I know it's tough when you're 18, you're starting cosmetology school and you want to do everything you want with your friends and this and that. This is something you'll learn with time, that eventually you'll learn how to, say, nah, maybe I don't want to go out tonight, or maybe I'll, stay home tonight, and learn how to kind of moderate yourself, because that's an important skill to learn. Also know that the book claims that no matter what changes in the economy happen, there are more jobs available for entry-level cosmetology professionals than there are people to fill them. I would argue that while that is true to an extent, like think about now during the situation now that's going on with the pandemic, it is very difficult to find businesses that are accepting, because a lot of businesses are going under. If the economy is not well, people are not going to be going out or I should word it this way, young people are not going to be going out to get their hair done. It's typically the clients that are the mature client, the elderly client who needs the permanent wave done, who wants her regrowth touch-up done. Those are the clients you want to focus on working with, because they have the money to spend. They tend to be clients that want to come back in there. They want to get their gray retouched, their color done. Maybe they want some foils. The younger people are it's not that you don't want to focus on them, but you don't want to rely on them too much, because think about these crazy fashion tones, rainbow mohawks, leopard spots, even balayage. Those are not where you want to, those are not the services that you want to do to pay your bills. I always joke and I'll say that, gray touch-up, single process color, double process blonding, foils, those are going to be your rent, your car payments, your loan payments. And then your money that you're going to use for your pocket money is going to be your fashion tones and just everything crazy in between. Most of the time in the salon, and my own experience working behind the chair, we're not doing crazy fashion tones. The last salon that I was at, which was amazing, we didn't do a single fashion tone. We did a majority of gray coverage. We didn't even do that many reds. A lot of it was natural looking blondes, dark browns, highlights, foils. You might get a little bit of balayage here and there. So that's always important. You also want to know that it's important to know this because in order to seek employment, you have to pass your state board exam. So you might get some questions from this chapter in your state board exam. You don't study this chapter, that's potentially more questions that you will not succeed on passing. Also know that this is an important DIY because I've worked with students that have different types of disabilities, ranging from being on the spectrum, ADHD, to physical disabilities. Any kind of disability must be documented in an IEP if you are in high school still, or there's another word for it if you are in college, and I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. I'll comment down below what that is. Any kind of physical disability has to be documented, and if it is documented, they must accommodate it. So certain things like, extra time is important. If you have a learning disability that requires extra time, please utilize that. Do not be ashamed of it. I have students that will get ashamed of it and they want to hide. Don't hide. If you need the extra time, take the extra time. Look at it as an asset because it can only help. You also want to check with your state board and make sure that the arrangements can be met in advance. This is not something that you want to do last minute. If you know that your state board test is going to be, Saturday, and you're trying to do this by Friday night, it ain't going to work, or the day of, it'll be a nightmare. This is something that you want to have a correspondence on from this minute you start school and make this completely transparent with your educator that you're working with. Also know that you want to prepare for licensure in an appropriate way. Typically, most states will require a physical called a practical exam or a written called a written exam for your state board. Back in my mom's day and my cosmetology teacher's day, the written and the practical were done in the same day. So you would take your written and then you would take your practical and it was like immediate results. They don't do that anymore. Now the written is separate. You have to go to a separate testing center. And typically when you're doing your written exam, you're going into the exam. I always say dress comfortably. Okay, this is not cosmetology school. You don't have to wear a uniform to the exam center. Dress comfortably. Go there early. It's better to be early than late. If you are late, then chances are you will not be admitted in. In rare cases, if you are early, you will be permitted to take your exam earlier. That happened to me when I did my educator written exam. I came in early, due to the pandemic, obviously we had to wear a mask and everything. I was, worried that, maybe they'll kick me out because they can only hold a certain amount of people, but I came in there, they go, okay, you're here early, they had a few cancellations, so I was able to get in there. You never know what's gonna happen. Also, keep your phone in your car. If that phone, the phone is not allowed to be on you, period. They actually make you take everything, at least in my state, everything and put it in your locker. Even like if you have a business card in your pocket, I've seen people, end up having to go back and put it in their locker. Business cards, tissues, anything like that, out of your pockets. Keep your pockets clean. They do a full-on search. You have to pull up your pant legs. You have to turn out your pockets, inside, back pocket, everything. Roll up your sleeves. I don't even think jackets are allowed. Jackets have to be kept in the thing. In the exam room, it is timed. You might have a paper for writing stuff down if you can request that. So that's just my own ways of prepping for your exam. I actually had one lady, this is a funny story. Students always appreciate this. When I was doing cosmetology and we had to do our cosmetology exam, we all had to meet up there, and the lady that was running the exam was super rough. A lot of these people work for the state and they kind of have a personality that speaks like I am better than thou. This lady, she almost looked like an older version of Jan from the movie The Brady Bunch. She had like these side curls, and then she would like have like a tone with her. I remember I finished the test and then I went to go give my signature and she called me out and she basically created a dialogue, and I'm like, I'm not really an arguer, especially if someone is, grading my test or, is in charge of handing out my results. I'm not going to argue with someone like that because it's just not worth it for many different reasons. She said something like, oh, you can't sign your name correctly? She goes, and you're going to college? Because I remember before I said, we made small talk and I said, oh yeah, after this I have to take a college exam and go to the testing center. She goes, how are you in college and you can't sign your name correctly? I'm like, oh man. So don't be surprised if some of them have like a sassy personality. Don't take it personally. I will say that when I did my educator written exam, the people that were at the testing center were so friendly and it was a great experience. Just be respectful, be calm, and you'll be fine. Avoid talking too. That if you're there with a group of friends, I would say avoid that, because if you're gonna be chatting away at the exam hall, they don't like that and you might get yelled at for that. So don't do that. Keep your phone in your locker. I always say keep your phone in your car. I took my phone and turned it off. I put it in the glove compartment. I travel very lightly. Bring in your ID. You will need your ID and you will need the printed out receipt of your payment and your information. That stuff is important, your ID and that. Everything else is not important. So that is that. Also know that there are testing skills that are important. Know that you can have your physical and your psychological state will impact your exam. So obviously if you're not feeling well and you're not going to be taking your exam, that happens. Feel free to also post down your crazy test stories, both the written and the practical. You know, did you get any test anxiety? Were you sick the day of, or were you sick and you couldn't take your exam? That is really unfortunate when that happens. I know that when I took my practical exam, I borderline had a panic attack. I'm thinking that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fail this and this and that. There's a saying in psychology that we have called, I think, therefore I am, and that was made by Rene Descartes. So Descartes was onto something, because if you think something, it's gonna come across and manifest itself in physical symptoms. I've known people that get so anxious that the salmon come upstream, or they might have to, you know, be running back and forth to the restroom, or they might just get cramping or feel like they're gonna pass out. You do not wanna give yourself a panic attack over this. I always say, take a deep breath, take it day by day, don't worry about it. Do the best you can with studying. Know that you wanna take a look at a lot of their test skills they have. It's important to have a notebook. You wanna, you know, take important notes. I always say keep your tests and go over your tests and do like little study groups. I had a group of, it was literally me and 2 other people. We could just get together on the phone late at night or on Zoom, and we'd just make it casual, and we would just, you know, try to talk about the chapter, talk about things that are important. Watching videos like these are important. Know that you want to have a good prep for the test. So I always say 2 weeks before your exam, if you have not studied, you want to study like the wind. Pick about 3 chapters a day, study them. Doing things in the same place, same time is important. So if you're studying in your room that's really quiet, keep studying in your room. If you're studying maybe in the library with friends, study in the library. Keep the environment the same, keep the time the same. That is good, because that will, basically it'll encourage you to go back on the skills and pull those skills back up. So if you're studying in your room, you know that, okay, I'm gonna go to my room, this is my study time, and your brain will get used to that. You also want to know that your learning style is important. If you have a specific learning style, go back on that learning style. I know that My Lady has Studio Luma, and that is an incredible study skill to utilize. So that's just some really good things for preparing for your written exam. Know that anything is fair game for your test. Some states have state laws. Studying your state laws are incredibly important. I know that for my educator exam, I had 5 questions about state laws, and I got all 5 of them right because I knew what was legal. What I will do now is I will give you guys a 5-minute break. We're getting to that 20-minute mark. Take a 5-minute break. When we come back, I'm going to continue on more test-taking skills for the day of your practical exam and some other additional skills I recommend as a psychologist.